Okay, I want you to picture this. It's 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. You're standing on your front porch in Orange. You've got the bags packed, house is locked. The kids are somehow, miraculously, wearing shoes. And you pull out your phone to get a ride to John Wayne Airport. You open the app, and there it is,
The searching for drivers wheel of death.
the wheel of death. Or, even worse, you see a car that looks like it's 5 minutes away, you book it, and then boom.
The little car icon suddenly spins around and starts heading towards Anaheim.
Exactly. And that 5 minutes is suddenly 15, and you start doing that, that frantic mental math. If I miss the pre-check line, do I miss the flight? If I miss the flight.
It's a very specific type of adrenaline, and not the good kind. I call it the logistics gap. We spend all this time planning the vacation or the business trip, the hotels, the flights, everything. But we leave that first critical leg of the journey.
The trip to the airport.
We leave it completely up to chance.
It's the will I make it gamble. And that is exactly what we are digging into today. We have a fascinating stack of research here on airport transport, specifically for our listeners in Orange, California. We're looking at data from a provider called Limo Service Orange, but really we're analyzing a bigger shift. Why are people, ditching the apps and going back to traditional professional car services?
It's a return to certainty.
Yeah.
And the data here is interesting because it frames this not as a luxury purchase, which I think is the common assumption.
Right, for CEOs or celebrities.
Exactly. It frames it as an efficiency purchase. It's about removing a variable from a very, very complex equation.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. The apps are convenient. They're on my phone. Why is the pain point of a rideshare actually bad enough to make someone switch?
Well, the source material breaks down 3 common pain points that I think anyone who travels frequently will recognize immediately. The first is what it calls the geography gap.
The geography gap. Explain that.
Okay, so think about Orange. It's not a simple grid, right? You have the circle, you got the Old Town one-ways, you have all that construction on Chapman.
Right.
A rideshare driver might be coming from 3 towns over. They're just following a GPS line blindly. They don't know that a certain street becomes a parking lot at 8 a.m. or that the curb rules at SNA changed last week.
That's a really good point. I've definitely had a driver circle the block 3 times trying to find the legal pickup spot while I'm on the curb waving my arms like a maniac.
Exactly. And that leads to the second pain point, reliability. The source defines professional service as control over chaos. When you use an app, you're subject to whatever the market availability is at that exact second. Is there even a car? Is there surge pricing?
Is the driver going to cancel? The cancellation panic is real.
It's so real.
You see driver arriving in 2 minutes, you grab your bag, and then bloop, finding new driver, and your heart just sinks.
That's the gamble. The source highlights that a professional car service, specifically referencing Limo Service Orange, starts with what they call a ride plan.
A ride plan. I like that. It sounds a lot more secure than hoping for the best.
It's a strategy. It's built around your flight times, not guesswork. It means the car is booked, the route is mapped, the driver is assigned long before you're even zipping up your suitcase.
So it removes that variable of, will someone even take my ride?
It completely removes it. And the source uses the phrase door to door, but they mean it in a very precise way.
What do you mean? Isn't Uber door to door?
Well, in theory, but how often does the pin drop on your neighbor's house or around the corner?
Or at the back alley entrance.
Right. Door to door, in the professional sense, means the driver is at your actual doorstep, helping you load your bags. You aren't dragging a suitcase down the block to meet a confused Prius.
Okay, so the text mentions 3 pillars: reliability, comfort, and control. I want to drill down into control because when I travel, I feel like I have 0 control.
Exactly. And that is why this one piece of the puzzle is so critical. You can't control the weather in Chicago that delays your flight. You can't control the TSA line.
Right.
But you can control how you get to the terminal. And the source argues that by locking in this one variable, you create a buffer for everything else that might go wrong.
Let's talk about that buffer and the geography specifically, because Orange to John Wayne to SNA, it looks pretty short on a map. What is it, 10 miles?
Maybe 15 minutes on a Sunday at midnight, sure.
Laughs, right?
But on a Tuesday morning, it's a battlefield. And this is where that local expertise comes in. The source explicitly mentions key pickup zones: Old Town Orange, the Chapman University area, and major corridors like Catella and Chapman Avenue.
Oh, Catella. Catella can be a dream or an absolute nightmare.
Precisely. A GPS just sees distance. It sees that the 55 freeway is technically the straightest line to the airport.
But a human knows better.
A professional driver who works this route every single day knows that the 55 South interchange is where dreams go to die during rush hour.
It is such a bottleneck. You can sit there for 20 minutes and move 3 feet.
Right. So a professional driver isn't just reacting to traffic, they're predicting it. They might know to take surface streets through Tustin or cut through Main Street to avoid that freeway merge until the very last second. They're buying you time.
So they're not just blindly following the blue line on Google Maps.
No, and that's a key distinction. A rideshare driver is often incentivized to follow the app's route exactly. A private service is incentivized to get you there on time, period.
That's a really important distinction. The incentive structure is totally different. But what about the airport itself? John Wayne is unique. It's easier than LAX, sure, but it has its own quirks.
It does. It has a very specific flow. There's that morning departure rush where the curb is just packed. Then there's an afternoon return flow. And the source mentions that professional drivers build a buffer against this curb congestion.
What does that mean, practically?
It means they know which lanes move. You know when you drive into SNA, there's the inner lane and the outer lane?
Oh, yeah.
If you pick the wrong one at the wrong time, you are stuck behind a shuttle bus for 10 minutes. A pro driver knows the entry points. They know how to drop you off, so you're walking through the sliding doors in 30 seconds, not 5 minutes.
That image of sprinting to the gate because you got stuck at the curb is exactly what we're all trying to avoid. But I want to shift gears to the who. Who is this actually for? Because I think there's still that skepticism. Is this really worth the money?
The source breaks down a few specific use cases that answer that question really well. Let's start with the business traveler.
Okay, the road warrior.
For them, the vehicle isn't just a car. It's a mobile workspace. The source emphasizes the executive aspect. If you're heading to a meeting in Irvine right after you land, you need that car ride to be a place of calm.
Right, you need a quiet cabin, a clean interior. You need to be able to make a phone call without, shouting over the driver's radio.
Exactly. Privacy and professionalism. But there's also the external signal. The source mentions for client pickups, a black car service just sends the right message.
That's very true. A cracked windshield and a baby on board sticker doesn't exactly scream VIP treatment.
It's part of the handshake in a way. It sets the tone.
Huh.
But what about the other side of the spectrum? Families. Because traveling with kids is where the chaos really lives.
I am skeptical here. Does a fancy car really make a difference when you have a screaming toddler?
I would argue this is where the value is actually strongest. The source refers to something every parent knows. The Tetris struggle.
Oh, I feel that in my soul.
Okay, picture it. You order a standard rideshare. It pulls up. It's a compact sedan. You have 2 large suitcases, a stroller, a diaper bag, a car seat.
And the driver just sits there staring at their phone.
And you're on the side of the road, frantically trying to jam all this gear into a trunk that's already half full of the driver's gym bag. And traffic is backing up, people are honking.
I felt my blood pressure rise just hearing you describe that.
That's the reality for so many families. Now, compare that to what the source calls the SUV advantage. When you book a professional SUV, you eliminate that entire physics problem.
You know the trunk is empty. You know it's large enough.
And, crucially, you know the driver is going to help. They're out of the car, they're loading the bags, they know how to stack them. It changes the dynamic from scramble to service.
Okay, but can I just order an Uber XL?
You can, but you're back to the gamble. An XL on an app is a loose term. It might be a huge Suburban, which is great, or it could be a crossover that technically has a third row, but once you put it up, there's 0 trunk space.
Oh, I've been there. You end up with a suitcase on your lap.
Precisely. And that's not safe, and it's definitely not comfortable. With a dedicated service, the fleet is standardized. You book an SUV, you get a vehicle designed for luggage and people. It's all about predictability.
So we have the business traveler and the family. What about the event crowd? The source mentions weddings, graduations.
That's the herding cats scenario.
Yeah.
Think about a graduation at Chapman. You have grandparents flying in, aunts, uncles, trying to coordinate 3 different Ubers to arrive at a restaurant in Old Town at the same time.
It's a nightmare. Where's Uncle Bob? Oh, his driver got lost.
Exactly. Now you're losing your dinner reservation. The benefit of booking one larger vehicle is you keep everyone on one schedule. You arrive together, you leave together. It removes all that friction.
It sounds like the theme here is just removing friction. So let's talk hardware. What are the options?
They tailor the fleet to these use cases. They list sedans, which are perfect for the solo business traveler or a couple, then the SUVs we discussed. And they also mention luxury vehicles for when you want that premium feel.
I get it. Sometimes you just want to feel fancy. But walk me through the actual process. This isn't an app where I just press a button 5 minutes before I need to leave.
No, and that's a crucial differentiator. It's a reservation service.
Yeah.
The source says to use their dedicated airport transportation in Orange CA page. And they really emphasize being specific.
Specific in what way?
You need to specify your needs. Extra luggage. Tell them.
Yep.
Child seating. Tell them. Be clear.
If a lot of stuff is not helpful.
Not at all. 4 large suitcases and a set of golf clubs is helpful. And the most critical piece of data you have to provide is your flight number.
Why is the flight number so important? The driver isn't flying with me.
No, but the driver is tracking you. This is a huge value add for arrivals.
Yeah.
If your flight is delayed on the tarmac in Phoenix for an hour, the driver knows.
That is huge. Because usually I'm frantically trying to text my driver while the flight attendant is yelling at me to put my phone away.
And that rideshare driver often just cancels because they aren't paid to wait. A professional driver adjusts. They track the flight in real time. If you land early, they're there early. If you land late, they're there late. You don't have to manage them.
That goes right back to that peace of mind idea.
And it's about the staging, too. For arrivals, the driver knows exactly where to be at the curb. They aren't just circling the airport aimlessly.
And for departures?
It's pure efficiency. The driver knows the correct lane, the correct entry point, the door closest to your airline's check-in. It's all these little micro-efficiencies that save you precious minutes.
Minutes that really add up when you see the security line. So let's talk lead time. The source says, for early morning flights or peak days, booking ahead is crucial.
Yes. You can't treat this like an app. You are booking a specific person's time and a specific vehicle. You want to lock that in as soon as you have your flight details.
Okay, I want to zoom out. We've covered the logistics, the fleet, but I want to go back to the economics of this because I can hear a listener saying, this sounds great, but it's going to cost more than an Uber.
And it almost certainly will. But economists have a term for this, expected value. You have to calculate the cost of the negative outcome.
Walk me through that.
Okay, so a rideshare costs $30. A professional service costs, say, significantly more. But that rideshare has, let's say, a 5% chance of making you miss your flight.
And a missed flight costs, what, hundreds of dollars? Plus a hotel.
Exactly. When you factor in the financial risk of the cheap option failing, the expensive option starts to look like an insurance policy. You aren't just paying for a ride, you're paying for a guarantee.
That is a fascinating way to put it. You're paying for insurance against the chaos.
And you're paying for your own mental state. The source uses the phrase peace of mind over and over, and I don't think that's just marketing fluff. There is a real tangible value to sitting in the back of a car, closing your eyes, and just knowing that you'll get there on time.
It sets the tone for the entire trip. If your vacation starts with you sweating and stressed because you barely made it, it takes 2 days just to decompress.
Exactly. The trip begins when that car door closes, not when the plane takes off.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're seeing this shift. People are realizing the gig economy model has cracks, and when the stakes are high, they don't want to fall through them.
It's like we realize that cheap and random isn't always the best deal.
We're reaching a saturation point with the uncertainty. For a while, the novelty of summoning a car with a phone was enough. But after enough bad experiences, the value of old-school professionalism becomes very clear again.
So for our listeners in Orange who are nodding along right now, thinking, yes, I am done with the gamble, let's make sure they know where to go. The service we've been looking at is Limo Service Orange.
Right. And based on our source, they are very accessible. But you need to remember the plan, part of the ride plan.
We've got the specific contact details here. They're located at 3221 East Chapman Avenue in Orange, CA, 92869. That's right in the heart of the area we've been talking about.
And for those who prefer to actually talk to a person to set up that ride plan, which I'd recommend for complex trips, the phone number is 714-786-6363.
And they're on social media, too. You can follow Limo Service Orange on Facebook. I imagine that's a good place to see the fleet photos and visualize that trunk space we were talking about.
Definitely. Always good to see what you're booking.
You know, as we wrap up, I keep coming back to that idea of control over chaos. Travel feels so chaotic these days, and this seems like one of the few things you can actually lock down.
It is. We can't control the weather or the airline's maintenance schedule, but we can control the first 5 miles of the journey. And sometimes that's enough to change the entire experience.
It's about valuing your own time and your mental energy. Is the stress of that rideshare gamble really worth the savings? Or is the peace of mind of a professional driver the ultimate travel hack?
I think for anyone who has ever stared at that searching for driver screen while their boarding time ticks closer, the answer is pretty clear.
I think so too. Next time you're planning a trip out of SNA, maybe skip the roulette wheel and book a plan instead. That's it for this deep dive. Safe travels, everyone.
Safe travels.